Hello and thanks for chiming in. This is Niels from 𝗧𝗵𝗡 Welcome to the topic of session organization, where I would like to dive into the naming scheme. Naming your DAW tracks in a personalized way can greatly benefit your workflow and offer several advantages. Throughout this video clip, I will explore the significance of a personalized DAW tracking name scheme. So why to naming tracks and clips? It's important to note that track naming is a personal decision and there are no official guidelines or specifications. Over the years, my own DAW track naming scheme has changed, evolved, but also becoming a constant part of my session organization. When I revisiting older or achieved sessions, I rarely encounter tracks that haven't been named nearly according to my scheme in the way I will explore to you today. If you have a consistency in track naming, here are the advantages of it. You will have a better overview of the whole session, even when you work with a lot of tracks. So let's say more than 50 or 60 audio tracks. And then the additional tracks of effects, synths, orgs, groups, and whatever you also use in your session. Grouping and track order will be also faster when you know which tracks you want to bring into a group or how you order them. And you can search very fast for a specific track, maybe with a shortcut of your DAW or also on if you have a controller device. So this is better if you know how your tracks are named. And you can create presets, and recalling them with a knowing scheme is much easier when you save presets and you have a specific name for that track type. So it is much easier when you look for a specific preset. And of course, for the exporting part, when you work with others or when you do your own backup, then if you have all the clips from on the audio tracks that get exported to a WAV file, if they are named short clearly, you can find them later if you need one of these or all of them, or if you handle. If you change between another musical partner, or if you send them to an external editor, then the clear naming is a big part and help each other to work together. And one more, if you use a 𝗖𝗿 control service, like me, I am now doing with my solid state Logic UFA 8 with Pro Tools, then you are limited to 4 signs on the display or 4 letters. And within these screens and with longer names, this could be hard to see or to find the right track. So working in Pro Tools, and don't use the Yukon protocol where you have more signs. With 𝗖𝗿, you only have 4 signs that show up on the control surface. So if you have short names in your DAW, the better it is on a control surface. If you're uncertain about the best approach for your own track naming, don't worry too much about getting it perfect from the start. Sometimes it just takes time to achieve a satisfactory result, and you don't need to overthink that. Maybe you already have some unknown guidelines for yourself that you use unaware every time, and when you bring that one time to an order and think about it, probably you're all the way 80 or 90% up there. So this doesn't need to take up more time. If you will find my DAW track name scheme helpful, feel free to adopt it for your own use. However, if you find it unintuitive or too complex for your session. You can use it as a starting point to develop a scheme that better suits your needs. Let us start with a quick overview of the track types we have to deal with in our session, and then I show you my naming scheme to give you an idea of how you can implement this on your side or take it as a starting point. I use Pro Tools because I like Pro Tools, use it for a very long time. You can, of course, use any DAW and create your own naming scheme in your DAW. So you will find the same track types in your DAW. In Pro Tools, we have here the audio type. There are all the waveform and clip files on the timeline. And then we have the instrument tracks where you can have the MIDI files and have an insert up there for a virtual instrument. And we have the aux tracks for routing, for grouping, for sending some signals to an effect like reverb or delay. We have folder tracks. We have two different types in Pro Tools. We have routing folder tracks and normal folder tracks. This is a routing folder where we have like the sans and so on. And then we also have VCA channels and some MIDI channels, and of course the master tracks. So these are the track types in the DAW, and let's create some first parts for our naming scheme. The first one is the track name for audio tracks, and I would say go as short or small as possible. And I have prepared some tracks for you as well. So here are they, and I will go through them one by one, and let's put them out of the way. So here you can see we have at first the bass drum. I just call it BD. It's short, it's very short, and it's fine for me because I know that's the bass drum. As an example, for the snare top mic, I have snare top. I know this is more than 4, and on my control surface it will shown like this with the 4. So the last letter becomes the last of the 4 when you use Huey control surface with just 4 signs. But it's fine for me. I know what it is. Then we have like this overheads mic left, so OH, and the under dash and an L. Could probably do as well like Joel, but I like more the under dash. I use it more than this type of dash because I find this one, it looks for me, or I see this faster. Then we have lead guitar, and on the guitars, for me, guitars are my main instruments beside the vocals, so I have more than often only guitars with vocals, sometimes some other instruments. So I don't need to call that like guitar before, because I know what it is. These are my guitars when they are just named for the reason what they played, like the lead guitar or the solo guitar. So the naming is specific to the part they are playing. And sometimes I just name them like they're sounding like a crunch guitar, or let's say just like this with a disc. This is my distortion guitar. And sometimes I have 2 distortion guitars, and probably one is panned to the left and the other one is panned to the right, and then it's the R. Or I have 2 guitars they are playing at the same time, and one is the guitar that's just the main guitar in the front, and the other is just there for some coloring, some texture, and I call this just then this dub. Oh, sorry, for that's the dubbing guitar, and that's fine. On the virtual instrument, when there's still a plug-in like a virtual instrument, and we have that instrument type of track, I use in front the VI, because then I can clearly see this is the track where the virtual instrument is. And when I'm finally changed this to an audio track, and I call this then key, I know this is the same track, but that one is the virtual instrument. And when I hide that track, let's do this, I hide this one and want to find it maybe later because I want to change something after I convert to an audio track. I just go there and see right there, this is the VI key, and I can find it very fast. I do this for all types of virtual instruments beside my drum tracks. When I create my drums with a virtual drum kit like 𝗧𝗵𝗴 I have a preset where I have all my my tracks that are routed from the 𝗧𝗵𝗴 to a recording track, and then I call them all with the attention _SD. And therefore I already know this is the virtual instrument track source. So when I have let's do here that one, and I have here the kick, then I know this was the source track for that, and it's the same. I can find it very fast because I know all the SD attentions are responding to the virtual instrument track. Okay, let's go to some aux group tracks. If I group a track, let's say we have we have mic'd up a guitar, an acoustic guitar player, and we have two mics. One is pointed to the bottom, to the body of the acoustic guitar, and one is painted to the neck, and we record both, and then you route both to a group track because we just want to deal with one track. Then I use these GR for a group of this type of instrument. That could be used also for snare for the topper and the bottom snare type that you route to one group track to have just to deal with one fader, as an example. The other one are the aux tracks where I have my effects on, like a delay or reverb or room effect, and they get a name like for what it is, for the type of track, like the guitars, and this is the guitar delay. If I have more delays in my guitar group that is possible, I just do delay 1 or delay 2. Or if I have not a stereo delay, if I have mono delay, normally I have stereo delays, but when I use a mono delay, I just make a delay mono, or better for the viewpoint is then the guitar delay mono. The next one is the subgroup where all drum tracks or all guitars are routed to, and this one I call drums, and I wrote this in big letters, so I just see direct, okay, this is the group. You can see this also there as a group, fine. It's pretty easy to find. And I have all my shortcuts to get to my subgroups on my control face, so I just know, right, this is the name of all the groups. And if I have another group, let's duplicate this to show you a bit better. So then I have a bass group, and I have a guitar group, and this is the way I always name my subgroup tracks. All my VCA channels get the VCA in front. Sometimes I just do only that, so it's shorter, it's better to see all my control surfs. But it's also fine if I write that out, and I know that it's fine. And here's the last one, and this is about the Pro Tools 2-track. Sometimes I call this as well that way. So there are oh, I'm sorry, sometimes to just Pro Tools 2-track. I know what it is. My whole session is routed to, so this is also a given thing that's also in my preset, and I know this is the final track where all is routed to. The next thing I would like to show you is using additional signs, and that could be helpful, but it also can create irritation. Be careful when and what you use as additional signs to make clear at what stage the track itself is. My goal is to reach the simple track naming as shown before when I start with the mixing session. A bit before that, the tracks may have more processing through recording, editing, tuning, or additional external processing. And that's what I like to show you. Let's say we have a vocal track recording. Let me clear this all. And at first you have the vocal recording track, let's say version 1, the version of the first, but maybe you did another one, then you can call it 1, 2, 3 on the go. And finally you come to the final track that you decided that's going to be on the record. Then that's the final vocal tracks. But maybe you have some steps between there, and you have to edit the thing. So you can rename that track and say, okay, this is the vocal track that is finally edited. But maybe you do some melodyne, and I know some DAWs have already the ARA integration. Also Pro Tools has this to have melodyne direct on the track. I'm more a fan of when I do a whole track, I just use the plugin from Melodyne, do the Melodyne thing, and then I have this type of track with the Melodyne plugin set in the first insert, and I do the Melodyne thing and let it stay there and just create a new track that is committed with the Melodyne track, and then I have a vocals committed track. I know this is my final edit committed track. When I do when I do this, I just deactivate and hide it and have that always in place to get back to do some changes and copy that then to the final track. But let's say we are not in the final stage, or inside the mixing stage, or just before, when you prepare the final tracks for the mixing, then you maybe do some external editing or external processing with an external hardware compressor or whatever, and you route that track out of Pro Tools through the hardware compressor or EQ or whatever and bring it back and re-record it. Then I have that type of additional, the Vox X with an external processing. And then I have the vocal final track. If I need to do some changes, or if you think, oh, you have to do inside the mixing and want to create a new track but can't call it Vox or just Vox, you can use, of course, again another F for final or whatever sign you need. But be careful with that, as much as different signs you will have, it can get irritating, so be careful with that. Also, another thing is, if you have a guitar type of track, maybe a DI, and use reamping processing, then you call that, I do that with RA to know this was my guitar track that's already reamped. I know that this comes from the reamp. If you don't want to use such, in Pro Tools you have these type of comments you can do, but I like it to have that directly on that track naming, because if you create a new clip and render that and do the export of the files, these files can also be named like the track name you give them. So this is handy. It's just one thing to do, and you have that on the clips as well. So it's helpful to keep an eye on the track naming and the clip itself, because for the backup or the exporting tracks, and also to deleting unused tracks, it is helpful to keep an eye on the whole session, on the whole naming. So at the end, I would like to show you an example on an active project that I work. The song is called Now You're Gone, and I show you how there's the track naming itself. Here we are now in the session of the song Now You're Gone. And as you can see, the song starts with the drum group, with the routing folder for the drums, and all the drum tracks are in there and routed to that folder. Here's the bass drum, as we already see in the example. We have PC for the bass drum and also for the snare, and this is my parallel compression track. If I use a parallel compression for these kinds of tracks, I already have set up those aux tracks. Then we have the snare top, snare bottom, snare compressor, and this is an already compressed recorded track. And if you saw the video of mine about the color scheme, then you know these drum tracks have the lighter brown color. So these are from my virtual instrument drum plugin from 𝗧𝗵𝗲, and that's because they have these kind of color. Then we have a drum plate, a gate delay, that's also for the drum set. Then we have a drum room aux track and a drum delay aux track, all inside the drum folder. The next is the bass routing folder, and then in the lowercase with the bass. And I set that up because I like to have these types of subgroups together: drums, bass, guitar, instrument, and vocals. And sometimes I have another DI track from a bass, or distortion effect aux track that gets placed into the bass routing folder as well. Then we have the guitar folder. Here are acoustic guitar and lead guitar 1, lead guitar 2, then a rhythms guitar and a chorus overdub guitar, and also an outro on guitar that's only played in the outro. And here is guitar mono delay and stereo delay for the guitars, a room aux track, and a guitar verb aux track. Next is the instrument track, and here you can see we have virtual instruments that already converted to audio tracks, and I've already added these because they have the ED. I know they are final, and I can probably delete this when I come to the mixing session. This is just the rough mix of that song. And we have an instrument verb, just one. If I need another one, I create that on the fly. Here's the vocal routing folder with the main vocal and a subgroup with background group. And I would say I should change this and make it that way. So I see this is already the group. And to have a better view, I would say like this. This is the group of the background vocals. And there we have here a background vocal and a background vocal in the mid range for the left side. Here's one for the right side, where additional ad-libs 1 and 2, and backing vocals for the chorus part that are the higher range, and one for the lower range. And then we have the vocal effect aux tracks, Dimension plugin I use to fat up some vocals in the chorus sometimes. We have a play with delay, vox room, and another vocal verb I mostly use additionally for backing vocals. Here are the VCA tracks, the yellow ones for drums, bass, guitar, instruments, and for the vocals, and the Pro Tools 2 track A. I have different kind of presets that I load into my sessions. A stands also for analog in my mind, so I know when I call that up, I will have a hardware insert 2-bus compressor on that. That's just the rough mix. So here's a clean Pro Tools 2 track. And then we have audio channels where I can record the final mix with master plugin and just the mix without 2-bus processing. So I have them as audio files already there. And then we have listen back aux tracks. This is where I have my listening that goes to my 𝗔𝗯𝗄𝗃 𝗔𝗵𝗲 monitor output, and listening for headphones ears, another plug in the Redline monitor. When I listen on my headphones, I like to have that plug in the mixing session as well. Then is the bounce track and the monitor master track. So this is my naming scheme I use all the time on my sessions. And before I close this clip for today, I want to give you some tips for when you're creating your own scheme. At first, use what makes sense to you. I would say shorter is better than longer, but not when it gets too complicated, when you don't understand or remember your own chords. So make sure it's short but still understandable, and that you can remember what that track is meant to be. Use upper and lower letters, like for groups uppercase, and for normal tracks lowercase, but also like with the snare top, you don't need any dashes between, so it's easy to read what it's mean, but it's easier to read than like this one. So use upper and lower case this, then it makes easier to read. Keep an eye of the clip names as well, like for exporting, and then when you want to delete unused audio files, you can then see very fast which one you want to delete or which one you want to have still in your session for the backup. And also, of course, when you share the tracks with others, it is helpful that they get from you the tracks well labeled. Also, another example for well labeling of your clip files. I wanted to remix an older session from years back, and when I listened to the bass guitar track, I was not 100% sure if this was the clean DI track or an amp DI track, or even some already track where some virtual amp plug-in processing going on. So I can't really hear that right away. I don't label the track or the clips well enough for me. So at least I have to work with the track, how it sounds, but it would have been faster to know what the source is about. So if I had labeled that correct or better for that type of audio track, it would be easier to work on that right away. So keep that in mind. making sure that you label all your tracks in the best way you can, and then you will have it in the future easier. So this was it for today. Hope this part about naming scheme was helpful to you. Please tell me in the comments section how and why you use your naming scheme, and share your scheme with me. I'm interested for your reasons. You will find more clips about tips and my experience in producing my music on this channel, and of course on my website. It's 𝗧𝗵𝗃𝗁𝗃𝗀𝗁𝗃.com. So stay tuned. Hope to have you the next time as well on board, and thanks you for watching.